Now 9 days away from April 30th, stay-at-home order is set to expire. So what will happen after that? News 8 political reporter Rick Albin went one-on-one with the governor today. Rick, what did she have to say?
Well, there are a lot of things that everybody wants to know, right? When are we going to reopen Michigan businesses and what will it look like? The governor says right now, 10 days out, it's still too early to know. Those cases going up, as you were just talking about, will be one factor. All of the health elements. But one thing she says for sure is the emergency order will have to be extended. Now, the legislature has already extended it once, and likely they will again. But yesterday, during a question and answer period, she seemed to indicate that she, as the governor, had the power to go ahead and extend that emergency order with or without the legislature. We talked about that today.
This extension of an emergency order, I think, is really important. It's what gives our frontline medical personnel the kind of protections that they need to keep doing their work. Even the Republican suggestions about how we might safely re-engage our economy contemplate the extension of the emergency order. And so I'm confident that they will see the wisdom in doing that, and I welcome their partnership. But I also know that we're going to continue to do what we believe the science and the safety of our citizens requires. And trust me, no one is more eager to open up the economy than I am. But we have to be really thoughtful about what that looks like so we don't have that second wave.
But just to be clear, you do have the authority from your interpretation to do that on your own.
Yes.
Now, the reality is that the plans talked about by the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader and the Governor have a lot of very similar functionality to them, including, I would presume, extending that emergency order. So I really don't think that's going to be a hang-up. But what we do know is that if those rules go into place, the emergency order is likely to be extended. We can expect this to be a phased-in rollout with different rules in different areas. Parts of the state may be treated differently from other parts of the state. And we also think the stay-at-home order will be in place, but that could be modified. We'll be looking to find out who can go back to work and when, and we could get some more information on that later this week, maybe as early as tomorrow. But one thing we know for sure, when we start getting back to business here in the state of Michigan, it's not going to be business as usual for probably a very long time. Reporting live from home, I'm Rick Albin. Back to you.
Governor, you initially requested the state of emergency be extended an additional 70 days. That state of emergency is set to expire on April 30th. At this point, based on what you know now, do you see a need to extend that state of emergency past April 30th? And are you concerned that any critics in the Republican legislature might push back on extending that state of emergency?
I'm glad you asked the question. I think that this is an important moment to differentiate between two things that people understandably confuse. And so I appreciate you teeing this up for me, because I think it's really important that we acknowledge a state of emergency is a posture that we are in that gives us the ability to do a lot of things that we don't usually have the ability to do. First and foremost, we've extended protections for everyone who is on the front line from, liability. I mean, that's one thing that happens under the state of emergency. We're trying to draw more people into the front line, and so we've made it easier for people to join up, and we've given them protection for doing that, for doing their jobs. So staying in a state of emergency simply so that our health care frontline workers have the protections that they need is absolutely essential. Now, the stay-home order, which now expires on that same date, is very different. That is the order to not engage in certain activities, to stay home unless it's for a life-sustaining activity. The state of emergency will last a lot longer, and it should. We were in a state of emergency during the Flint water crisis. We were in a state of emergency during a sinkhole in Macomb County. All right, states of emergency are things that governments do when they need powers to take unusual actions to protect people. The stay-home order is something that is different and that people are confusing, and that's why I'm glad you asked the question so I could explain the difference. We will need to extend the state of emergency. My powers come from a couple of different parts of statute, and so I believe that regardless of what the legislature does, I still retain those powers. but I would like for them to be partners in this. We have worked very well together on a number of fronts. We need to continue working together because this is not a partisan issue. The stay-home order will be, another 10 days will go by between now and when we are confronting what the next phase is that we are going through. But the one thing I can say with all certainty is we won't just resume life like it was pre-COVID-19. It will take phases, and it's going to be slow, but it's going to be data-driven, mitigating risk, and making sure that it's safe for workers and customers of businesses that do ramp up. All those protections will be in there.